Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 5 of Developmental Psychology Online. Today, pardon me, I'm not feeling well today, so I'm dragging it in. But anyway, today we are starting week 5, and in week 5, we're going to be talking about information processing. We're going to talk about memory. It's not exactly what we were doing last week with cognition, because the issue is not so much how do we think, but the issue is how do we really store the memories, process the experiences that we have in order to in order to do thinking and feeling and all of that, living. How much of that is important? So as we're talking about, like, not only how to do that, but how does that progress through our lives? You got to remember that when we are born, so here's this newborn infant here. What does a newborn infant remember? Probably none of us remember really our experiences in utero. Instead, what we'll find, though, is that our minds are really like hardwired, I guess. It's like the soil on outside. The soil is ready to plant seeds. That's the way our brains and our minds are when we're born. And so this is really the start that we get. Memory is very important. Um, Probably none of us remember that many things from our first 2 years experiences. However, you do remember things, because if you didn't, you wouldn't know how to talk, you wouldn't know how to walk, which are things that you learned when you were in your first 2 years, right? So there is memory, and so that is active. Maybe the experiencing things part of what we call autobiographical memory isn't really clicked in. Now, the reason for this is the way we remember is that we take new experiences and we compare them with what we already know. So if you're starting off and you have no memories, it's hard to remember anything new because you don't have anything to compare it to, unless it's something that's a procedural, something we're doing, like walking and talking. And then it's easier to remember it because you keep doing it. It's procedural. Okay, so where this goes throughout our lives is that we're continually building experiences which continually make it easier to refer back to our experiences, or we refer back to our experiences in comparing them to new experiences, and then that helps us to remember. So that precedes the rest of our lives. When you go to school, we're focusing not so much on making children memorize procedures, but getting them to do the procedures so much so that they become automatic. So that, when you're 38 years old and you're in the grocery store, you don't have to count on your fingers 7 times 6. You can remember, oh, it's 42. Why? Because you do it enough, over and over again. So the other thing is, let's look at memory on the other side. And this is the question when people get really old. Why is it they begin to forget things? And the reason for that is probably largely the biological stuff. Okay, there's enough that happens in our brains over the course of our lives, especially if we don't get enough exercise or we eat a lot of fats or whatever. There are a lot of little things that contribute to the degradation of your brain cells and make it physically harder to remember things. It's also, though, you have a lot of life experiences, and the more life experiences you have, at the beginning, you need the life experiences to remember things in the first place. But the longer you live, the more life experiences you get, and the harder it is really to click into what is happening right now and process that in order to remember it. Because there's a lot of that stuff there. There's so much to compare it to. There's so much memory there to use to process. So that makes it a little more difficult. So you have to do one of two things. You either forget the old stuff, which I find most older people don't really do that, or really kind of sort of tune out to learning the new stuff, which is usually what we'll do, because we do tend to like to cling to our memories. So anyway, if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate at all to look me up. Remember, look in the contact information. If you need to chat about something, text me. I'll set up a Zoom appointment. We'll go face to face and talk about things. And that's really probably a better way to do office hours than it is for me just to sit there for an hour. I haven't really found good experiences with that because people don't tend to show up. But you should show up when you need the help and when you have time. And remember, I'm here to help you out. So if you have any comments or questions or want to know more about that, memory and information processing. And information processing is sort of the same thing. It's processing the information that we're taking in. The way we process it is to use our memories, what we already know. Okay. And then last week, remember we learned about assimilation and accommodation, and that's information processing in a way too, because you're adapting new things and old things, okay, and putting them together. So I hope you all have a wonderful week 5, and I'll see you next week in week 6. Take care of yourselves.